Hello, Patrizia. I'm very excited to be giving you an interview on your channel, Casos e Mistérios.
Hoje é um grande dia aqui no canal. Pra mim, pro canal, pra vocês. Pra quem me acompanha lá no Instagram, casos.mistérios, já está a par do que aconteceu na última semana, que foi o meu contato com o ator de Mindhunter, Sonny Valicenti. Pra quem não sabe, o ator que faz o BTK na série Mindhunter é o ator Sonny Valicenti. Eu vou explicar mais ou menos pra vocês como tudo aconteceu. Pra quem me acompanha lá no Instagram, casos.mistérios, sabe que eu tô sempre colocando arte lá no canal, colocando arte sobre os vídeos que eu posto, sobre o conteúdo aqui do canal. E num desses conteúdos que eu criei, que foram algumas artes sobre a série Mindhunter, vamos dizer que eu fui surpreendida. De alguma forma, essa minha postagem, essa arte do meu canal, ela chegou até um dos atores de Mindhunter, que me contatou. Enfim, eu fiquei muito feliz, fiquei muito surpresa, quase não acreditei que era ele. Naquele momento surgiu a ideia de que talvez ele pudesse responder algumas perguntas pra gente estar apresentando aqui no canal, e ele acabou aceitando. Então, eu enviei pra ele 4 perguntas para ele nos responder aqui, e eu espero que essas minhas 4 dúvidas sejam também as dúvidas que vocês têm. A primeira pergunta, Sônia, é o seguinte: como que você se preparou para interpretar BTK nessa série?
And a lot of different ways. There's plenty of research to do, as you know. The John Douglas book, he wrote Mindhunter, which of course the show is based off of, and he wrote another book specifically about BTK called Inside the Mind of BTK. And that was really the handbook, I think, for the work. A lot of the scenes that we used, I'd say a majority of the scenes that we used for BTK in the series were directly taken from that book, because that book has his personal journal that he kept throughout his life, let's say, and his time being BTK. And that was a really interesting trail of breadcrumbs, if you will, to follow, because he's recording how he feels in his body immediately after one of the murders. So he's talking about something that, as an actor, I'm looking for. I'm looking to find a taste of, inside, and he's describing these feelings in great detail. He's oddly very self-aware of what he's doing and the effect that it has on him, and that was really fascinating, and in a way, a real blessing for an actor to be able to have that kind of insight into the kind of inner world of a character. And I did other things, of course, I went to Wichita, Kansas, where he lived and the murders took place, and that was very quieting. In the book, Inside the Mind of BTK, there's actually a map of all the different houses. So when I got to Wichita and rented a car, I started to drive around to these, different sites and start to walk on the sidewalks that he walked on. I even had the strange opportunity of going inside one of the houses, because it happened to be under construction while I was there, and I just knocked on the door, and a construction worker opened the door, and no one lived there, and I just asked if I could walk around. And like I said, quieting, moments when you're standing right where he was standing, looking through the windows that he was looking through. Very, very uncomfortable. Very, very uncomfortable trip. I went to church where he was a member, his church. Well, not his church, but... and, that's a community of people that are still... They still live there. I mean, the thing about Wichita is this is not that old. It's actually quite recent, this event, when they found out who this man was living among them. And so it was really powerful and really beautiful to see that community really surviving. So that was very cool. And then, just a lot of lonely, creepy walks. I followed neighbors home. In my neighborhood there's a couple bars, so I would go out walking at night and there'd be a couple walking and I would just follow them home. And that was very uncomfortable to follow people as soon as you turn off the main road and you're still following them. And the main goal is for them not to know that you're following them. I mean, I didn't last very long, but it was enough to feel that rush, my heart rate increasing, my breath quickening. All good data, and I think with all the scenes that we shot for BTK, that was the kind of stuff that was useful to me, because it wasn't a lot of talking. It was a lot of, he was in action. He was doing things, whether it was, searching a house, stalking someone, waiting for someone, trying to not seem. One of the main notes I kept getting on set was, don't play psycho killer, play normal human being, which was the smartest note I could have been given. Of course, I came in, and I wanted to do all this kind of dark, complicated stuff. And David Fincher was just like, no, play it like a human being, which is kind of the thesis of the show, right? Which is, can we tolerate and endure the kind of thinking where we don't, where we can see these people as human beings, not to condone their actions or have empathy, but to understand why this happens and how this happens, the behavioral science. And I think if you're going to represent that, which I think the show does so well, is you have to play it as honestly and truthfully as possible.
A segunda pergunta é por que, na sua opinião, demorou tantos anos para o BTK ser descoberto?
I think there's a number of factors in that. I think it happened during a time where there isn't a security camera on every corner. There isn't a cell phone and GPS in everyone's pocket. And there's not navigation in your car. And his victims were kind of picked at random. All of that. And also, too, behavioral science was growing. I mean, that's also kind of the track of the show, was growing with his time as a serial killer. That science, that practice, that department at the Federal Bureau of Investigation was still very young. And I think as they got sharper and keener, and as technology advanced, and as BTK got older, lazier, greedier, he slipped up. Yeah, I think that's probably the best answer, because I certainly don't want to say things like, he succeeded to evade authorities. I think he unfortunately got very lucky that he didn't get caught sooner. And one thing that I saw when I went to Wichita is that these houses are not far apart from each other, where each of the heinous murders happened. I mean, sometimes it was just within a 5-block radius. So really, it wasn't that Wichita had a serial killer. It was this community, this small bit of real estate. I can't imagine the terror.
A terceira pergunta, eu acho que é uma das mais importantes para nós, fãs dessa série, é se há possibilidade de nós termos uma terceira temporada de Mindhunter.
This might be a fairly quick answer. I don't think there will be a season 3. There were a lot of articles with interviews with David Fincher released recently where he talked about how he's definitely taking a break. At the most positive, just taking a break. But that that kind of show, it takes a lot of work to make. It's year-round shoots and about the same amount of time to edit it. And he's basically making these really high-end cinematic films, 8-hour, 10-hour films, and that just takes a lot of work. And he was saying in the interviews that the viewership actually was kind of low compared to the amount of money that was being spent on it. Also, it all happens in Pittsburgh, which in terms of where I am and where he's based in Los Angeles, that's 2,000 miles away. That's away from your home, your family, and all that. So, I think there are many reasons why it might not happen. And if it does, it'll be further down the line. And I would hope that they brought me back Maybe they'll recast the role as someone older. I don't know. But it would be interesting to come back. And it would be interesting to, because there are time jumps in the show, it would be really interesting to do that just kind of as an actor, as a human being. Take 5 years off, come back 5 years later, older, a little bit more wisdom, hopefully a better actor, and come back at the role just as perhaps as Dennis Rader went in and out of I'm so hesitant to use the word, but going in and out of being a serial killer, the time in between.
A quarta e última pergunta é: se nós tivermos essa terceira temporada, você acha que o BTK vai ser o foco principal dessa temporada?
I think more so than the other two seasons, for sure. I mean, in season 2, they definitely named him and went to Wichita, right, and began investigating. I do think that it would have gotten more specific. I know that in one of these interviews, David Fincher, the director of the show, he talked about how that was, at least in season 5, it was supposed to be a 5-season arc, and that at the end of season 5, they would be knocking on the door of BTK to arrest him. That would be the journey, which kind of ties back to the second question, which is, why did it take so long to catch BTK? It took that long to catch BTK because it took that long to really hone in what behavioral science was, I think. And of course, floppy disks. If you know the history of BTK, that was one of the main ways that he was caught, because he would be taunting the police. That was a big dynamic that he had, would taunt the police of evading capture and kind of rubbing it in their face, putting ads in the newspaper. And in one of the ads in the newspaper, he asked, if I sent you materials on a floppy disk, would you be able to trace where that floppy disk came from? And of course the police said, yeah, no, we would not be able to trace the floppy disk. Please send us a floppy disk. And he did, and that was exactly how they caught him, and they were able to trace that back to his church. And that matched up with some other forensic evidence that they already had in place that really helped them hone in on Dennis Rader as the BTK killer. So yeah, if there were season 3, there were so many cases and serial killers at that time. So I think that they would continue to have multiple investigations going on, but I have a feeling that the BTK one would become more and more undeniable for them. They would be able to, they wouldn't be able to avoid it any longer. And boy, that would have been interesting to see. That would have been really interesting to see. But I had a blast working on this show. This was just the most fun for an actor, and really it's about the privilege and the honor of working with David Fincher, who, if you don't know, go see all of his films. He's a master. He's a master filmmaker. He's a master of suspense. He really is. We would do 50 to 100 takes of a scene. The opening scene in season 2, where the wife comes home from the grocery store, she catches BTK in the bathroom, and he's dressed in his slip and pantyhose and the mask and ropes, and he's chasing her down the hallway. That scene we shot, took us 4 days to shoot that. It's really just maybe like a minute and a half in the show, but it was 4 days of shooting, and that's a real gift to an actor, I think, to be able to have that much time to go deeper, to investigate further, to try different things, to try and perfect one thing. I think that's kind of where I would get stuck. And David Fincher really has a vision in mind. He really has he knows exactly what he's looking for, and he's getting all of the departments to kind of crystallize that vision all at once. So it was an incredible opportunity for me as an actor. It was a creepy time for me to be researching Dennis Rader. There are plenty of materials out there, and I have to say that it took a lot of therapy to kind of get out of that dark state of mind. I think season 2, my shoot date kept getting pushed back. I was supposed to shoot first in May, but I ended up not shooting until December. So, and every month I was getting an email saying, here, you're going to be shooting this day, and then it would get pushed back. One time I even flew to Pittsburgh to shoot. I was supposed to shoot the next day, and I got a call that night saying, we've canceled your shoot. It's raining. We'll bring you back another time. So I was kind of, because I would shoot all of my stuff just over the course of a week. And it would just be BTK focused, and we would just shoot all day. And so for, however many months that is, May to December, I was practicing. I was, walking around my neighborhood doing all this weird stuff. And that had an effect on me, because one of the ways that I found a way in was, what's the human limit of self-loathing, where you really are so unhappy in life. You're so unhappy with yourself. This was how, I'm not saying this is what his experience was, but this was the closest I could get. That when I get to that point of self-loathing, that I want to act out, right? That I want to do that thing that I know I'm not supposed to do just because I want to feel alive, or I want to feel important, or I want to have power. And so I, was like flirting with that state of mind for 6-7 months. So I was happy to have shot it and be done and start to focus on the more positive things. And to be honest, I'm still working on it. Definitely still working on it. Patrizia, this was a real pleasure. I hope that this was as fun for you as it was for me. And happy to answer any more questions at any point. Follow Patrizia, Casos e Mistérios. Thank you.
Espero que vocês tenham gostado, tanto como eu gostei dessa entrevista e dessa oportunidade de ter falado com essa pessoa maravilhosa. Eu quero deixar aqui os meus agradecimentos. Sem essas pessoas eu não teria conseguido fazer isso. Gostaria de agradecer ao meu amigo Paulo Azevedo, que me ajudou a editar esse vídeo. Queria agradecer a Helena Ghinato, que fez a tradução do vídeo do Sonny. Queria agradecer às minhas irmãs por me aturarem nessa última semana, aturarem a minha felicidade extrema e a minha ansiedade extrema. Gostaria de agradecer especialmente ao Sonny por ter sido tão humilde, por ter sido tão gentil de conceder a entrevista aqui pro meu canal. E se caso nós não tivermos uma terceira temporada de Mindhunter, nós ficaremos muito felizes de vê-lo atuando em outros programas, em outros filmes, em outras séries, porque você realmente é um ator muito talentoso e merece todo o sucesso do mundo. Obrigada, Sonny. Thank you. Não esquece de deixar o like aqui no vídeo, de divulgar esse vídeo para os amigos, para a família, para quem é fã de Mindhunter, para quem não é também, para assistir essa série, porque essa série ela é maravilhosa. Para quem não é inscrito, se inscreva aqui no canal, me siga nas redes sociais, lá casos.mistérios, lá no Instagram. Como eu disse, eu tô sempre postando os bastidores de gravação, tô sempre postando artes sobre os assuntos que eu falo aqui. Então, se você não me segue lá, me segue. E eu vejo vocês no próximo vídeo. Um beijo!